Well, good morning. It is great to be here with you. This is a little different. I wanted to give you a couple of thoughts as we begin today that kind of came to me during this week. As you know, we've started up school in person, and one of the conversations that I've had recently with some teachers and even with some older students is that one of the things that they think is now gone permanently from our lifestyle around here is the snow day. Now that everybody knows how to do online learning, we have Zoom, we have other forms of taking care of business when you're not in person. Um, I think teachers and students have realized that those amazing days where we'd all be around here hoping for bad weather because then you'd get a day off from school, and yeah, you'd have to make it up at the end of the school year, but nobody cares about that. It's just this idea of getting a day off was awesome, and I think those may be gone. Well, it made me start thinking about us here at North Point. And the fact of the matter is, I talked to probably 8 or 10 people this week who are not coming to our in-person services, not yet, and really not even within the foreseeable future. And the reason is that they each have some kind of a compromised immune system. They are at risk. They are put into this category of people that if they were to get the coronavirus, they really don't know what would happen to them. There's certainly some evidence these days that people who get the coronavirus, especially if they're a little older, and they have a compromised immune system, if they have something going on inside of them, then it could really be a really dangerous thing. And so for the time being, they're not coming back where there are crowds. They're here at church or even out in restaurants and anywhere else for that matter. And I've realized through conversations that's a really serious deal. That is an informed decision that they are making on their behalf and on behalf of their loved ones. And if you are one of those people and you are watching, we want you to know that we are with you on that. Now, the truth of the matter is, there are other reasons why people are choosing not to come back to church in person. Certainly, it is a little different. And honestly, I'm not buying this idea that some of you have said to me that, oh, well, you really think I do a much better job, online preaching than I ever did in person, and so you're really just enjoying this at home, watching this. I'm not buying that. But whatever, there are lots of different reasons. And I guess I just want you to know that I don't want you to forget that we are still in this together. Whether you are here present with us or you are at home watching, with your coffee and in your bathrobe and your recliner, wherever, I don't know. Or even if you are some of the new people who have joined us online and you don't even live anywhere near Louisville, Texas, and might not ever have the opportunity to come and be with us in person. I just want you to know that we're together. That these moments that we share on Sunday mornings or whenever it is that you happen to be listening, it means the world to all of us here at North Point that you care, that you are part of this, that you are with us, and we want you to know that we are with you likewise. So let's get ready to enter into our worship time. We're going to have a time of prayer, and then we'll get into our study. But we really do hope to see you sometime soon in person. Well, hey, good to have all of you here again. And before we get started, I just want to do this thing that we do every week, and that is to give you a reminder to go ahead and get some juice and some bread and have it by your side, have it at the table wherever you're watching, have enough for you and your family. And if you have some friends that are around watching this together, that you'll be prepared for that here in 15 or 20 minutes when we get to the end of this and we go into communion. So make sure you get that done. We're going to begin a brand new study today. It's kind of like it's time to start something new. We're back in school. We're past Labor Day, and so I've been thinking about this topic now for the better part of a year, and I guess I've been kind of waiting until maybe we're back with a full house again, or be back at another time, but I don't know what it's going to look like 6 months from now, but I know that this message is on my heart, so we're going to dive into it right here. And it's a study on freedom. Look, freedom is such a huge word in our culture today. When we say freedom, we think freedom of the press, or freedom of speech, the freedom to bear arms, freedom of religion. It's a big deal here in this country. I would say we value our freedom more than just about anything else at all. You want to get into a fight with somebody, you want to get into an argument, you start messing with people's freedom, and it's like you're messing with the essence of who they are. That's how much freedom means to us. I think if you asked a regular Joe his definition of freedom, I'm sure you would get a pretty simple answer. Freedom, for the most part, for most people, simply means being able to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, and the way you want to do it. That's kind of how we see freedom. People don't like restrictions on their freedom because when that happens, it really doesn't feel free anymore. In our country, we've come to accept that certain freedoms come with restrictions. But that doesn't mean that we like it. Just ask people how they feel about speed limits, or how they feel about homeowners associations. You'll get an earful, because it is as if freedom is being infringed on. But there is a freedom, a kind of freedom that transcends human laws and liberties. We read about it in the Bible. And often when Jesus was teaching his disciples, he was also teaching a crowd of people around him. Most of the time, they were Jewish people who had gathered to hear him speak. And among those Jewish people would have been the leaders of the Jewish church. It would have been the Pharisees or the Sadducees, who were there kind of standing in the back in their robes and their tassels with their arms folded, listening to Jesus to see if they could catch him saying something that was inaccurate or flew in the face of their traditions. And so they were there also. And so I'm gonna read from just a small story line out of the Gospel of John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. And it's in the 8th chapter, and Jesus was doing what he normally did. He was teaching. And it says that he was actually teaching, or he actually addressed these Jewish believers, and they would be people who were seeking him out, were trying to really figure out if he was actually the Son of God as he claimed. They had no doubt seen some miracles and heard what he had said, and so they were hovering somewhere out there on the belief scale. And in John chapter 8, verses 31 and 32, It says this: Jesus then said to the Jews who had believed in him, "If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." That is a really, really well-known set of two verses. And I want to take just a moment this morning and look at it. There's actually like 3 lines in there that all have substance and all kind of lead us to understanding a little bit more about what freedom is all about. The first thing that he says is, if you continue in my word. If you continue in my word, and then he says, you are truly my disciples. If you continue in my word, it really is such a strange thing to say when you look at it. The word here, where it's translated continue, it can mean dwell, abide, remain. All of those words could be switched out in the translation, and it would mean roughly the same thing. So he says, if you remain in my word, if you remain in my teachings, that's kind of how I take that. What does that mean, to remain in his word, remain in his teachings? Well, I think what he is saying is, and I'm just going to throw some other ways of interpreting that, or not really, maybe just translating it. It's as if he is saying, take up residence right inside the things that I am saying. So I get a picture of kind of going in and making my home right in the middle of the things that he says. Be fully immersed in the meaning that I give to your existence. That's Jesus talking. And I got to tell you, this really is not talking simply about the Bible, because when Jesus said these words, they didn't even have a Bible. They had some Old Testament scriptures, but he's talking about what he is saying, not about what was written hundreds of years before. When he said, remain in my word, he's talking about himself. They had Jesus. We have Jesus. Oh man, we need to read his words in the Bible. I am not discounting that in any way. But more than that, we don't just read them. We need to think about them. We need to ponder them. We need to walk alongside Jesus and carefully listen to the message that he speaks. Compare what he says with our own experiences. Have it be the measuring stick by which we interpret our lives and what we are going through. And what he says is, when we continue in his word, reading fully, reading those words, living with those words frequently, thinking long and deeply about what he is saying, Jesus says here that when you do that, something will happen to you. When you do that, something will happen to you. So he says, if you continue in my word, you are really and truly my disciples. There's a huge connection between living and breathing and pondering and taking up residence in the words of Jesus, and whether or not we are truly a disciple of his. I can really only take this to mean one thing, and that there are real disciples and there are fake ones. I can't read this any other way. Any other way of saying this, let's put it this way. There are genuine participants in the things of Jesus. There's something really genuine about people who walk closely to the words and the ways of Jesus. And then there are spectators who are sitting around and watching. Here is my fear with COVID. As I look at what's happening in our world, especially in the church world, I think what it's doing is it's creating a culture of spectators. And it isn't just that there are people that are watching, on their television, much like you are this morning. I don't think there is a direct correlation to that, but I do think there is a connection. People who know the story of Jesus, but they are content to watch it from the sidelines. There are people that are kind of growing in that direction, and I'm concerned about that. What is a disciple? A disciple is a student, a follower, an apprentice, and ambassador, a representative. Those are all titles that are given to the followers of Jesus. Every one of those signify activity, action, work, the doing something. None of them give the picture of sitting back and just watching somebody else do it. Being a disciple is not the automatic condition of all Christians. You don't come to faith. You don't come to like an intellectual understanding of the story and immediately become a disciple or a follower. At a minimum, in Scripture, that appears to be a process. And that process is intimately connected to remaining close to the words and the ways of Jesus in an active way. I have a friend of mine who I love deeply. I love him as if he were my own flesh and blood. There was a time in his life that he knew of Jesus. I have no doubt about that. He was exposed to the words and the ways of the Master. He learned much about Jesus in his growing up years and even some into his adult years. And I would say for a period of time, maybe even a lengthy period of time, I had no doubt in my heart that this was a man who walked by faith. I saw it with my own eyes. But something happened to him, and as I traced it back, and as he and I have had conversations about this, what happened was he stopped remaining in the words of Jesus. There is no doubt that is the most concrete thing that happened to him. He began to substitute the words of philosophers and educators and the cultural prophets of our day. He began to substitute their words for the words of Jesus. Their words became more important, more entertaining, more energizing. It appealed to his intellect. And out of those words that were coming from all of those people, doubt began to spring in his heart. Questions began to come up that he no longer had answers for. And he actually stopped going to the words of Jesus to even listen to what Jesus had to say. There's no doubt in my mind that he closed his ears to the message of Jesus, and he became attracted to the wisdom of the world. It's very intoxicating, I got to tell you. And what he is right now is he is nothing but a spectator of the ways of Jesus. He sits on the outside. I think he would tell you that he still believes that Jesus is the Son of God. He still believes that he is the Christ, crucified, risen from the dead. I think he still believes that. But there is no way that he is a disciple, an apprentice, a follower. And worse than that, as I know him well as a friend, he has no freedom at all. He does not experience this freedom. This passage that we just read says, if you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. In the life and story of Jesus, truth does not mean some kind of philosophical ideal or even the opposite of falsehood. That's not how truth is spoken of. Truth is spoken of as the knowledge of God as revealed in Jesus. That is the truth. Knowing this truth, knowing Jesus, is knowing God. God was made present in Jesus. Jesus, who is called later on in the Gospel of John, he refers to himself as the way and the truth and the life. That is who Jesus saw himself as. In this passage, Jesus says the truth will set you free. I would say to you today, yeah, Jesus will set you free because Jesus is the truth. The truth is Jesus. So get this. Truth is not an idea or simply a set of facts, although there is some validity to that. According to God's Word, truth is a person. Jesus is everything. And our goal as His disciples is to know Him. If we say we are pursuers of truth, we are pursuers of Jesus, because to know Jesus is to know the truth. And as you live the words of Jesus, as you continue seeing life, not just your life, but all of life through His eyes, you'll begin to look at yourself differently. This is one of the things that happens to us. You won't see yourself any longer as you used to see yourself. You'll begin to see other people differently. You'll listen to the news differently. You'll read the internet differently. You will change your whole value system because you have come in contact with the truth. You'll actually begin to understand what is really happening. Truth frees us from everything that is destroying us from the inside. The things that bind us, the things that limit us. You see, the opposite really of freedom is bondage. And that's the way that we live when we don't walk with the truth. Truth, as it's revealed in the life and the words of Jesus, it frees us from fear and anxiety and insecurity and the constant threats to the things that we hold closest inside. That's what truth will do. Truth frees us from anger, frees us from hostility and hatred and aggressiveness and bitterness, those things that these days are eating us from the inside out. Truth frees us from those things. The truth frees us from guilt. There is no doubt in my mind that there are literally millions of people who suffer inwardly from this like terrible sense of failure and shame about the things of the past, hurt and despair, even depression over the past or over the present. The truth of the words of Jesus, as we walk beside Him day in and day out, the words of truth, the person of truth, can change all of that if those words take up residence in our heart. Truth can free us from pride. That aggressive, arrogant spirit that most often finds comfort in the grossness of prejudice and bigotry and self-sufficiency and feelings of superiority where I see myself as better than another person. Truth frees us from that, because Jesus speaks such different words to our hearts. So in his words, in his ways, in his person, there's a way out. Today, listen to Jesus. Hear truth. Walk with truth. Know truth. If you do, you will be given a life that you never ever had before. And you will finally be set free to live. Let the truth set you free. We come to the table today where the bread of his body and the fruit of his life, these things bring reality to the presence of this moment. When we say the truth will set us free, remember that we are really saying that Jesus himself will set us free. And according to his own words, Jesus is present right here. Is present right here in this act of worship. Just as he was on the night when he ate his last meal with his disciples, right before he went to the cross on our behalf. Those amazing words, take this bread and take this juice and remember me, when he said that, I think he really meant it. Those are amazing words of life and of truth. Take and eat this morning.
The songs that we got singing, rising to the heavens, rising to your heart our praises, filling up the spaces in between our frailty and everything you are the keeper of my heart. And I am restless until I rest in you. Let me rest in you. I am restless, so restless until I rest in you. Let me rest in you, oh God. Oh, speak now, for my soul is listening. Say that you have saved me. Whisper in the dark, 'cause I know you're more than my salvation. Without you, I am hopeless. Tell me who you are. You are the keeper of my heart. You are the keeper of my heart.
So here's your challenge for the week as we wrap up today. What will you do in the next 7 days to remain in the words and the ways of Jesus? What are you going to do? What will you do to continue to walk in his steps? You can't come to the table. You can't come to the Bible. You can't come into the presence of Jesus without it demanding a response. I'm just reminding you of that. What is your plan this week for living in the way of Jesus? No plan? Reach out. Just reach out. We will reach right back to you. I promise that. We're here to help because we're in this thing together. So until next week, see you.
Creation rise and sing, all you angels sing, every nation sing, each generation sing. Sing praise, tell them all His wonderful acts. Sing praise, tell them all His wonderful acts. Families and nations, we gather His wonders, the world is established. Feel refreshed from the wells of salvation. Give thanks, His blood is risen to us. Sing praise to Him, tell them all His wonderful acts. Sing to Him, sing praise to Him, tell them all His wonderful acts. Families and nations will gather His wonders, the world is established. Be refreshed from the wells of salvation. Give thanks, His blood is risen to Families and nations remember His wonders. The world is established. It cannot be moved and be